Hello, it's Scott Manley here with Kerbal's Space Program. It is another Reddit challenge. This is orange tank efficiency, and the goal for this one is to travel a long way. Perform the entire mission using just one orange tank. That is the only fuel you are allowed. You're not allowed multiple tanks. You're not allowed ion engines. You're not allowed RCS. You're not allowed any other weird, motion powered system. You're not, obviously has to be stock as well, although this is not a stock install because there's a bunch of other random things installed. I'm only using stock parts on this. And in fact, you can see in the background there, yes, the floating island from Kerbtown. So obviously, because it's all about efficiency and everything, we're using lots of jet engines to help us up through the atmosphere with piles and piles of intakes. But what we're going to do is, once we fire up these rocket engines, we're going to start dropping these turbojets as and when their intake air starts to drop too far. So instead of shutting them down, we're just going to chuck them away, and ultimately we'll be left with one tiny engine being fed by a ton of air intakes, and that will ultimately be let to burn out. Now we have a pair of nuclear engines which we're going to use for most of the mission, but next to those, just to help us get into orbit, we have a pair of aerospikes, which are mostly being used because they're nice and high efficiency, and they get decent thrust, and they're actually quite light for what they are. So yeah, now you see we're down to a single turbojet engine. Air intake is still dropping slowly, and when that eventually burns out, we're going to ditch it. But because it is in the middle, it will not give us any torque because of uneven burnout. So it's okay to let this one finally burn out. The other ones we could probably get more margins on if we had something like MechJeb helping us with a throttle. But in this case, we just played it safe, so to speak. So now we have more than enough acceleration, given that we're already up around 1500 meters per second. We are wanting to get ourselves into orbit. We don't want to ditch the aerospikes too early, because if we ditch them too early, we will end up on a suborbital trajectory sooner or later. But I think at that point we've done pretty well. So this is essentially the final vehicle that we are going to be taking all the way to Duna and any other targets. So yeah, the actual mission, the actual requirement was that we had to take a space probe with the scientific gear and fly around the moon and come back. Hard mode was to take the scientific equipment to Duna, fly past it, and come back. I am doing harderist mode, where I am going to take a manned spacecraft to Duna, land, take off, land on Duna's moon, Ike, then come home and land safely. I could possibly go for Minmus if I really worked it out, but honestly, I'm, kind of running. I only have a certain amount of time here. So there's going to be a lot of 4 times time acceleration, which I've added in post-processing. Also note, although those nuclear engines appear to be clipping through the structure of the orange tank, I did not need to turn on no clip. It just happened to work that way. I don't know if the engineers were not paying attention when we submitted the designs, but the hangar seems to have built everything just fine. So anyway, I got myself into orbit, planned myself an exit burn. It's going to be 1,117 meters per second, and that goes straight into a Duna encounter, assuming I get it right, of course. There's always a bit of leeway here. There's always a bit of fudging needed, because you can't, of course, make this as a single burn. And one of the things you'll notice is, because I had to go away to another vehicle and do the time acceleration to get the alignment, I now have no idea how much thrust I have. Therefore, I have to fire them for just a second so that my maneuver node system will actually tell me that it thinks I'm going to take 4 minutes, which is just fine. So there we go. Going to be a 4-minute burn to get ourselves into an escape trajectory. Rory Kerbin here is, well, he doesn't look too happy. He is clearly not, I don't know, he's not living up to his name. If you remember Rory, Rory from Doctor Who, boy, he was like the ultimate badass. I don't think there's any other companion that he's had in the TARDIS that has been anywhere near as badass as Rory. I mean, that guy, he got killed like half a dozen times. He stood guard for 2,000 years, right? He, you know, in a parallel dimension, he was a soldier and he was a badass while everyone else was getting zapped by their eyepieces. He was just enduring it and killing the bad dudes. So yeah, this guy's freaking out, however, so clearly not fit to bear the name Rory. Regardless, we complete the burn and we are heading out of the Kerbin system off towards Duna at a great rate of knots. I didn't get the alignment quite right, so he has to travel a really long way, but he doesn't mind because, you know, he has his nuclear engines to keep him company, and I'm sure the paperwork on all those engines is just fine. You know, don't worry about the heat that's coming through. It's just it's part of the design that you should be feeling a little warm in there. We want you to be cozy. After all, you're sitting on top of a spacecraft which is one giant fuel tank and strapped between two nuclear reactors. But that may sound dangerous, but you do have some parachutes there to comfort you, right? Don't you find the presence of the parachutes? And there's a lot of parachutes to be comforting. I do as well. So anyway, we are on. We're going to fly, get our encounter with Duna, and what happened here, unfortunately, is we had a program crash and we didn't record the next segment. Actually, we recorded it, but it didn't flush to disk. So regardless, I set myself up on a 7-kilometer approach, so that will be flying low over the surface, and I want to get some... I want to come in here, so we'll set the bottom flat down. That actually looks like it's quite good for re-entry. Nice flat surface to absorb as much of the pressure as possible. Nice view from the cockpit there, sir. So yeah, I try to burn up a little to try and, you know, slow my descent towards the surface, and then realize, oh yeah, I have all these parachutes. I should probably use those first. You know, that's the thing with Duna. You can still hit the surface going sideways very quickly if you're not careful. So yeah, we're coming close to the surface. Let's turn the whole thing around to take a look. Sun is more or less just setting, which is good because it means we can see those long shadows and get a really good estimate of just how close to the surface we are. That was, of course, a requirement for the lunar landings, was that the sun had to be low enough on the horizon that the topology was obvious. If it was straight overhead, the topology may not be so clear. So we're coming down at about 36 meters per second right now, but the main chutes have not deployed. The drogue chutes have deployed, and they are helping slow us down. But once we get below, you know, the 500 meters from terrain, we'll find out how fast we're moving and whether we actually need to use any engines to stop our descent. And slowing down, 15, 14, 13, good number, 12. Yeah, we're probably gonna fire the engines just a little. It would be risky to touch down even on those giant legs at this speed. 12 meters per second though. It is a nice wide base. I noticed a few other people did actually land on the moon, but they tried to land it on its tail. I thought this was a better plan to build it in this style. It's kind of hard to get the center of mass right, and it will flip around if you're not careful. And so just fire the engines. 3 meters per second touchdown speed. Great, huh? So anyway, now we just repack all the parachutes and, of course, send our dude off to plant a flag somewhere. Up onto the nearest hill. There he goes. In fact, he's running up the hill so he can catch a glimpse of the sun before night sets in. Just so he can feel somewhat reassured that he is in fact in the same solar system. Note the hotbar there. I still have the Kerbal Quest rocket pack stuff installed, but I didn't bring any of those parts, so that window is still displaying and I can't turn it off. And I didn't realize until I actually got out. So again, technically not stock, but I don't believe that I've used anything that would give me any advantage. None of the parts, none of the mods, none of this stuff helps me, but it does display windows, which actually get in the way technically. So yeah, we spend the night having a sleep on the surface underneath the fuel tank. underneath the heat of the rocket, or enjoying the heat radiating off the rocket. And then he wakes up, shaded from the sun, and he's ready to get on his way back onwards to his next destination. Now, Duna has just enough gravity, or low enough gravity that the rocket pack will overcome it, but it's not the most efficient thing. It's very slow, and you can very easily run out of fuel here. There we go, get inside. And you notice I actually haven't packed the first 2 parachutes there, so I have to get him out to repack these things. It's amazing how long his arms are. You can repack things from like 5 meters away. Now, note me changing the staging so that the parachutes will in fact refire. I'll need that when I get back to Kerbin, won't I? But anyway, departing now, and it does feel rather sluggish. It would be really nice if we could ditch some fuel tanks and stuff like that, but we'll just live without it. That's part of the challenge. We gotta make it using just this one fuel tank, and it is kind of heavy when it has no fuel left in it. But we still have plenty of fuel left. We have about a quarter of a tank now. And I don't know what that would be, maybe 3 kilometers per second? I honestly don't know. But 3 kilometers per second is certainly more than enough for us to get up and visit Ike and land. Hang out there for a while and then head home. So we get ourselves, we're in a rather inclined orbit here because because of where we ended up. And this is the problem when you have landing and launch sites that are at high latitudes. So you see I set up this circularization maneuver, and there we go. We'll put ourselves into a nice circular orbit, so we can then plan our next move. And our next move with a quarter of a tank of fuel is almost certainly going to be Ike. So, oh look, there it is. Well, brilliant, eh? It just happened to be more or less aligned near the nodes. Everything all just works, so I just gotta set the maneuver node right away, and off I go to the next place. Off we go to Ike to visit the magic boulder. I don't think I'm going to be visiting the magic boulder today because it takes a really long time to find the magic boulder. So we'll just tweak the orbit, get it down nice and low. We want to make sure that we get into orbit around it. And another nice thing about this is simply that it gives us a distant point in our orbit where we can adjust our inclination, because we don't really want to be doing an injection maneuver when we're moving at a 45 degree inclination. And there's Ike. 12 minutes to encounter, and I can't see it there. And there we go, get ourselves into orbit. So another maneuver node. We're not going to land on the dark side because we want to be able to see everything. In fact, I want to land somewhere where I can actually see Duna. It's it's nice view, and it is tidally locked. Planet Ike, or the moon Ike, is tidally locked, so you want to make sure you land on a position where you can actually see Duna, because it's just not the same. We're going to have to hang out here for several hundred days as we wait for the orbits to realign. And so we fly around, wait for an appropriate moment, and now we're going to do our deorbit burn that will hopefully put us just on the side where we can actually see the planet Duna sitting peacefully below us. In fact, from our point of view, it will appear to hang in the sky and kind of oscillate back and forth during the month or whatever, during its orbit around Duna. So, final landing, killer velocity, just using those nuclear engines to best effect, and I overshoot because I was in orbit mode rather than surface mode. And there we go. The Ike, I think, is actually quite a tough moon, and then things break. So yeah, mission failed? No, we can always do the leg dance. We can do some hopping around on the legs. Maybe, oh look, we kind of got it. No, that's not working. Now we get the legs out of sequence. That's not helping. Nope. Let's try using the engines. Flip. Yay! Nope. Almost. Yay! And as a bonus point, we're facing almost the right way to take a look at Duna. Excellent. So just remember to reset the engines. And of course, go and plant a flag. Nice view. It's a good place. It's a good place to hang out for a couple of 100 days while you wait for rendezvous. See, there we go. You can actually see, and if we watch as this goes through the orbit, you can see that Duna kind of librates. It appears to librate. I believe the technical term for that motion is an analemma, or at least it is the case when you've got the sun. You can view it throughout the year and you see it oscillate around the sky in a kind of figure 8 pattern. And so we're gonna head out into orbit, head home, back to Kerbin. We're heading home, home back to Kerbin. We're gonna fly past Duna first, and we're gonna slingshot at Periaps and head back to Kerbin. I just totally made that up on the spot. Oh dear, please stop me doing things like that. So, yeah, we had another crash, which again meant that I lost a chunk of video, but regardless, we set the maneuver up. It's 522 meters per second, more than I would like. Once again, fixing the staging on the parachutes, because I really need those to work when I'm returning to Kerbin. If they do not work, bad things can happen. So firing all of these engines. So it's a relatively short burn, and Rory is still freaking out, even though he is going home. You think he would be happy about that. We make a small adjustment in deep space to get our Kerbin encounter down to about 42 kilometers, which will be deep inside the atmosphere. Not deep enough to stop us from an interplanetary trajectory, no doubt, but that's okay. When we get close, we have tons of fuel still. Well, we have about a ton of fuel. I think 200 units of fuel per ton, and I guess oxidizer gets added into that. If only I could dump that oxidizer, I would be more efficient. See, another fly around the sun. I'm sure the planet Kerbin is out there somewhere, waiting with her loving arms to recover me, or with her loving atmosphere to envelop me and slow me down. There we go. Excellent. So we just got to make a quick adjustment because I want to land on the light side. I don't want to come straight down, so I'm going to kind of more or less fly over this way, and that should give us... That means we should, in fact, come down relatively shallow angle through the atmosphere, and the sun will still be up. That's the plan. We don't want to be landing in the dark, because it's nice for you guys to be able to see it, right? And so there... Oh, look! We're actually coming in near Kerbal Space Center. If I had known, if, for example, the game had given me some way to measure this, display this, I could have adjusted it and probably landed right at the Space Center. But never mind, we're just coming in... well, we're coming in slightly faster than usual because, of course, we're going against the rotation of the planet. Very quickly killing off that speed. And now, maybe I have enough fuel I could fly southwards. No, it doesn't want to turn. Doesn't want to turn. Doesn't want to turn. Come on. Nope. Well, at least I'm lowering my mass for landing. I better leave a bit of fuel left for landing just in case. Okay, well, just wait. It looks like we're going to go into this little valley between these two mountains here. That's a nice place to land. We don't want to land on those mountains. It would be potentially fatal and potentially challenge destroying. Oh, looks like there might be some foliage in these valleys here. Lots of ground scatter indeed. Okay, deploy these. Deploy my parachute. In fact, I should just deploy all my parachutes, right? Okay. Deploy. Nope. Nope. Okay, we've hit a parachute bug. Great. Oh, what the deuce? Okay, well, That's great. Looks like he survived though. I don't think the requirements of the challenge required me to bring the orange fuel tank back. If they did, then I have just failed this challenge. We're bringing the pilot back. We could have landed that thing if it wasn't for that pesky staging system not actually working. What is with that? Still, the sun is shining on over us and watching us as we return return Rory to the surface in one piece. There, I'm just going to be careful that it does flip forward, so when we get close to the ground, I'm going to push forward. There, excellent. Oh, and we lose the nuclear engine as well. But we don't have a containment failure, probably. There we go, Rory Kerbin, Reddit challenge successor. Hard man, awesomeness, and terrified of flying. And look, even his little Kerbal legs work. Well, that's great. That's Rory. I'm Scott Manley. Fly safe.